your chance to be ruthless.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be...
Okay, so welcome to the deep dive, where we kind of take, one of those topics that you guys are really curious about, and we throw a bunch of sources into the mix.
Right.
And we pull out the really interesting bits.
Yeah, I love that we do that for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We just kind of get rid of all the noise
Right.
and straight to the stuff that's going to be useful.
That's right. And today, I think we have a topic that a lot of people are really going to resonate with.
Yeah.
We are going to be diving into the skincare routine of Bebe Rexha,
Oh, I love it.
who we all know and love.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, so we've got a really great collection of articles, interviews, TikTok videos, all sorts of stuff that we're going to be looking at to really understand the who, what, when, where, and why behind her routine.
I love it. That's so great. And it is so fascinating because, she's not just, known for her powerful vocals. She's got those huge hits like Meant to Be and I'm a Mess. But she's also, become really well known for being really open and honest.
Yeah.
About beauty and self-care.
Right.
And she's really willing to share what she does.
Right. Yeah.
And so that, I think, is, part of what makes this deep dive so interesting.
Yeah.
Is that it's actually accessible.
Right, like she's someone that we can relate to.
Absolutely.
Even though she is this huge pop star.
Yeah.
So let's actually start with the basics. Who is Bebe Rexha for those people who maybe aren't as familiar with her work?
Yeah.
She is a powerhouse vocalist. I think that's a great way to put it.
Oh, yeah.
She came out of Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
And she has really made her mark on the music charts.
Oh.
You couldn't turn on the radio a few years ago without hearing Meant to Be.
That's right.
Or I'm a Mess. Those
Yeah.
were like huge, huge hits.
Yeah. And I think what's so interesting, too, is that, her public persona seems to kind of like mirror her approach to beauty in a way.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
She has this incredible vocal strength.
Right.
And she's also, got this very direct, no-nonsense personality.
Mm-hmm.
And that authenticity really comes through
Yeah.
in how she talks about her skincare routine.
Okay.
It doesn't feel like it's overly manufactured
Right.
or out of reach.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's get down to the nitty gritty.
Okay.
What is Bebe Rexha's skincare routine?
Sure.
What are those like non-negotiables?
Yeah. Well, from what we've seen,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
her routine really centers around kind of three key elements. And I think these are pretty fundamental for anyone who's, thinking about their skincare.
Yeah.
It's thorough cleansing, making sure your skin is clean, consistent hydration,
Okay.
so moisturizing regularly,
Yeah.
and sun protection.
Got it. So those are like the
Yeah.
big three.
Those are the big three.
Yeah.
That's where you start.
Okay, great. And actually we have some really specific details from this Vogue tutorial that she did.
Okay.
And it's so interesting to like kind of see behind the scenes of her routine. So it looks like she always starts with an exfoliating cleanser,
That makes sense.
which I think makes a lot of sense. You want to get rid of all the buildup
Yeah.
and just kind of create a clean slate for...
Yeah, exactly. Exfoliation is so important.
Yeah.
Because it, gets rid of all those dead skin cells that can make your complexion look dull.
Yeah.
So by starting with that, she's making sure that all the products she uses after
Right.
can really, penetrate the skin and do their job.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like hydration is really a big priority for her.
It is.
Because she follows up the cleanser with not one, but like a series of hydrating serums.
Right.
Which is a lot more intensive, I think, than like just putting on a moisturizer.
It is. And, it can be really strategic to use a variety of serum because they can kind of address hydration on all these different levels.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you might have a serum, for example, with hyaluronic acid in it.
Yeah.
And that's going to draw moisture to the surface of your skin.
Okay.
But then you might have another serum
Right.
that has, different molecular weights.
Right.
And that might actually penetrate a little deeper into your skin for longer lasting hydration.
So you're getting like that deep hydration.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And this is where I think things get really interesting.
Okay.
She also uses a sculpting tool for a quick facial massage.
I've seen those.
I've seen those around too.
Yeah.
What is the deal with those things?
Well, there's a lot of buzz around them.
Okay.
And they're often used to try to encourage something called lymphatic drainage.
Okay.
Which can help to reduce any kind of puffiness in your face.
Oh, okay.
And, the upward motions that are often recommended, when you're using them, they can help to stimulate blood flow as well.
Okay.
Which, some people think can contribute to, a more kind of sculpted look, at least temporarily.
Right.
But, aside from all that, even just a gentle massage on your face, it can be really relaxing.
Yeah.
Just a nice part of a self-care routine.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and for anyone out there who, struggles with under eye circles, I know I do.
Oh, yeah, me too.
She uses a brightening eye cream, and she really emphasizes applying it gently.
Oh, that's so important.
Yeah.
Because the skin under your eyes is
so sensitive.
It's so delicate.
Right, yeah.
And, it's really prone to showing signs of fatigue or pigmentation.
Yeah.
And those brightening eye creams, they usually have ingredients that are specifically, targeted.
To help.
Yeah, to help address those issues.
So interesting. So I feel like we have a really good picture now of what her routine looks like.
Yeah, we do.
But I'm curious, when did she actually develop this whole routine?
That's a great question.
Was this something she always did, or has it kind of evolved over time?
Well, it seems like it's been more of a gradual thing.
Okay.
And it's really interesting to see how much her mother has influenced her.
Okay.
So apparently her mom actually has a background in skincare.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, being exposed to that at a young age probably had a big impact on Bebe and, kind of shaped her habits early on.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like those early influences can really stick with us.
Oh, they totally do.
Right.
Yeah.
And her mother specifically emphasized how important it is to moisturize, which, we've already talked about as being such a big part of Bebe's routine.
Yeah. So it sounds like that's something that she's, believed in and followed for a really long time.
Exactly. It's not like a new trend for her.
Right.
It's like a long-held belief.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating.
It is.
So now if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, this is great information, but where does she actually share this?
Right.
Where can I go to learn more?
Right.
We've got the scoop on that too.
Yeah. So she's done a bunch of interviews with some really, big publications like Allure.
Okay.
And of course, we've already mentioned that Vogue tutorial.
Right.
And those are great in those kinds of features because they go into a lot of detail.
Right.
They tell you, exactly what products she uses and the order that she uses them in.
Perfect.
Yeah. And then if you want something a little bit more immediate, a little less polished, she's really active on TikTok, which is a really cool way for her to connect directly with her fans and give them, quick little insights into her routines.
Yeah, it's a lot more unfiltered.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's, it's like a behind the scenes look in a way that you might not get from, a traditional media interview.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've covered the who, what, when, and where.
Yeah.
Now for I think the most important question, the why. Why does she put so much emphasis on skincare?
Right.
What is it about skincare that's so important to her?
Well, it seems like for Bebe, it's not just about, looking a certain way.
Okay.
Skincare is really a part of her self-care routine. And it's a way for her to, build her confidence.
Okay.
It's about taking that time for herself.
Yeah.
Nurturing her skin.
Yeah.
So it's about, feeling good as much as it is about looking good.
I love that. And I think that really resonates. It's not just about how we look on the outside. It's like that feeling.
Yeah, it's about that ritual.
Right.
That self-care ritual.
Right. And she has been really open about her own struggles with skincare, especially with dark circles. And she's talked about how, addressing those has really boosted her confidence.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes her advice so authentic.
Right. It's relatable.
Right. It makes her seem human.
It does.
Yeah.
Because she's willing to share, the things that she struggles with and how she's, addressing them.
Right.
And it reminds us that, even people in the public eye who seem to, have it all together, they're dealing with the same things that we are.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So after hearing all this about Bebe's approach to skincare,
Yeah.
what can our listeners actually do?
Right.
You know, how can they take some of these insights and incorporate them into their own routines?
Well, I think the most important thing is to go back to, you know, those 3 key steps that we talked about.
Okay.
That Bebe emphasizes, you know, the cleansing,
Right.
hydration, and the sun protection.
Got it. So those are like the foundation.
That's the foundation
Yeah.
of any good skincare routine.
Okay.
No matter what your skin type is.
Right.
Or what your specific concerns are.
Okay.
And, you know, another important thing is that it seems like Bebe has experimented a lot to find what works for her.
Right.
So, you know, don't be afraid to try different products.
Yeah.
And see what, you know, what works best for you.
Right, because everyone's skin is different.
Exactly.
So just because something works for Bebe doesn't mean it'll work for everyone.
Oh, exactly. And, you know, I think what's so interesting is that her routine does involve quite a few steps.
Right.
But they all kind of go back to those, you know, basic but powerful principles.
Yeah.
So it really emphasizes that you don't necessarily need a ton of products.
Right.
You know, you can focus on the basics.
Yeah.
And get really good results.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap up our deep dive into Bebe Rexha's skincare secrets, we've learned a lot.
Yeah.
You know, starting with the who.
Right.
You know, she's this incredibly talented and refreshingly honest pop star.
Yeah.
What we talked about, you know, her focus on cleansing, hydration, exfoliation, sun protection, and even some of the specific products that she likes.
Yeah, serums, eye cream.
Eye cream.
Yeah.
When, you know, we talked about how this is a routine that has kind of evolved over time and how much her mom influenced her.
Right.
You know, we talked about where we can actually get more of this information from her interviews and from her TikTok.
Exactly.
And probably the most important part, the why.
Right.
You know, for Bebe, skincare is about self-care.
Yeah.
It's a really key component of her overall confidence.
Yeah, and I think as we kind of, you know, wrap up here, the most important thing to remember is that skincare is really personal.
Yeah.
And, you know, discovering those products and routines that make you feel good and confident in your own skin, that's what really matters.
Yeah. And on that note, you know, I'll leave you with this final thought to think about. Good. You know, Bebe really emphasizes that, you know, self-care is such a big part of her beauty routine.
Right.
So what are some other things that you can do that maybe aren't skincare related that you can do every day to cultivate that same sense of well-being and really boost your own confidence? You know, it's all interconnected in a way.
It is.
So
yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
For another deep dive.
Yeah.
If you loved this deep dive, make sure to hit like and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories of your favorite influencers. Drop a comment below who should we cover next. Stay curious, and see you next time.
Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget.